What's going on, everyone? Olivia Reiner here with Ryan Wood for PackersNews.com. Just finished up here. Packers versus Dolphins. Packers were able to pull out a win, and there's a lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. So be sure, give us some of your questions, any comments, concerns, things that you thought people did a very good job at today. Anything, really, we would love to hear from you. But first, we'd love to talk about Aaron Jones, who had huge game, 15 carries for 145 yards, averaging 9.7 yards per carry and 2 touchdowns.
They gave it to him. 15 carries is his high this season, 17 touches with the 2 catches. They gave it to him more regularly than they have all season. He'd have more carries if he didn't take 167 yards inside the 10, which was the longest run of his career. And he rewarded that with 145 yards, a career high. The last 3 times the Packers running back has had 125 yards in a game, it's been Aaron Jones going back to last season. The bottom line is they're going to have to ride him these next 2 weeks if they're going to win. He is one of their best players. There's Aaron Rodgers, there's Davante Adams, there's Aaron Jones. He's one of their best players. You have to feed this guy. It's a risk because they're exposing him to injury. He's not well padded with the leg muscles. His position coach was talking earlier this week. He doesn't have that extra padding in the lower half, but he's one of their best players, and you have to, these next 2 weeks, they have to take that risk because they need to find a way to win a game going forward here.
Aaron Rodgers addressed this a little bit in his post-game press conference. He talked about, is 15 touches, 15 carries, is that a sustainable amount for the long term going forward for him?
It's a really good question because he did get banged up last year when his touches increased. There's risks there. That's why I think you have to be smart when they go ahead and give him more carries. They had to win today. So the fact that, this was a must-win game. The fact that they went 15 carries today, you can understand that. When you look at what it would do for their season, getting win in Seattle or Minnesota, it would do so much, give them such a boost. You can make that argument that you should get the ball more. But then like Arizona in early December, one of the worst teams in the league. You go to the New York Jets. Those are weeks that maybe you can get away with resting him. It's going to be touch and go, but against the teams that are good and against the games they have to win, they got to ride Aaron Jones.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Davante Adams being a big player in today's game as well. 4 receptions, 57 yards, 14.3 average on those receptions, 2 touchdowns. What did you make of his performance tonight?
It reminds me of Jordy Nelson. I remember in the 2014 season would get to this point where Davante Adams, he had 2 touchdowns today, accounted for basically half their points, and it was kind of ho-hum. Oh, just another week. I don't think people realize just how great he is. And there's plenty of reasons for that. One, he plays with Aaron Rodgers, but you look at the best receivers in the league, Julio Jones, Antonio Brown. They've got MVP-level, Hall of Fame-level quarterbacks themselves. So he doesn't get that recognition. What's interesting, so just a stat, Davante Adams had his 35th career touchdown reception today. He doesn't turn 26 till Christmas Eve. Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, A.J. Green, they had fewer touchdowns at age 26 than what Davante Adams has now. Just to give you an idea of what this guy has done, he's well on his way to his 3rd straight double-digit touchdown season. The rapport he has with Rodgers is off the charts. I think locally, if you watch the Packers every week, you know how good Davante Adams is. Nationally, you don't hear about Davante Adams being one of the elite, small handful of receivers in the league. He absolutely is. That's where he is right now.
And, of course, because Randall Cobb was out, we got to see a little bit more of the rookie receivers again, as we have sort of in the weeks leading up to this. What did you make of their play tonight?
Yeah, I thought that they were good. I think Marquez Valdez-Scantling certainly can take some pressure. You didn't see the Patriots double covered Davante Adams regularly. You didn't see them, the Miami Dolphins, do that near as much as there was more cover 2 and still focused on taking Adams away, but they couldn't afford to just take 2 guys and put them on Adams all the time. I think that part of that is what Marquez Valdez-Scantling has shown. There's a question here about Jimmy Graham. And, look, there's going to be some weeks that he's central into the offense. There's going to be some weeks that he isn't. I think it's just going to be touch and go. And what did you think you saw from Jimmy Graham today?
I thought, based off of what we've seen from him so far this season, he's been sort of inconsistent when it comes to how many times he's getting targeted and how many receptions he has in a game, and he had maybe one reception today. Yeah. So I thought fine. It looks like there's other people to play the receiver on this offense, so I'm not too concerned with that. He did have one instance where he was supposed to be blocking. I forget who he was blocking, but it ultimately resulted in a sack, whoever that matchup was that he had. So
yeah, it was a fourth down play, was it?
Yeah.
Or I think it was the fourth down play you're talking about, where, and even still, Aaron Rodgers had plenty. It was in the first half, late in the first half, plenty of time to get the ball out. But yeah, it was a protection breakdown. The comment that Aaron Jones is a beast. Yeah, yeah, he is. He's awfully good, and it's just going to be interesting to see how they use him going forward. But I mean, gosh, he's fun to watch. Like, every time he gets the ball, it's 10 yards, at least. Like, and the 67-yard touchdown, or not touchdown run, it was close to being a touchdown. The 67-yard run, 75 on the Dolphins, and we mention players by numbers all the time. 75 had pretty much a clean shot at him, but he got through the hole so quick. I mean, he gives them some options to let guys go unblocked because of how fast he is through the hole. That's just something that's pretty rare. Davante Adams said today his play speed is one of the best, one of the fastest in the NFL right now. He's not one of the fastest players in the NFL right now, but his play speed is off the charts. And I think that's what you're seeing, just especially how quickly he gets through the hole.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Like you said, he kind of seems slippery out there, just the way that he moves, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And he's a nice guy in the locker room, probably too nice sometimes. It seems like he always wants to say the right thing from time to time, but seems like a good guy as well. And
so someone I've missed your name, but the perfectly legit Equinemius St. Brown block, it was a dirty play. It was exactly the play that they're trying to eliminate from this game. It was as dirty as the couple hits that Davante Adams had last season. Those were terrible, dirty plays too. There was no need for an EQ to throw that block. If you're going to cry foul when a Packers receiver gets blindside leveled like that, you have to do the same. Well, you don't have to do the same. You can do what you want. I want to do the same if a Packers receiver does the same to an opponent. It's dirty no matter what colors you're on. Concussions don't see team jerseys. Brain injuries don't see team jerseys. The player was immediately left the field. It was a dirty play. It was the type of play the league has been trying to eradicate, and there's no place in this current, with the knowledge that we have on brain injuries, there's no place for plays like that in this game.
Yeah, no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It was unnecessary and incredibly ugly looking and really scary looking, so not sure what his status is, but it's not a good look. It was a little bit scary to watch. Yes, so as we continue to give us your questions.
Yeah, there was one person that said shoulder to shoulder. It doesn't matter about shoulder to shoulder. It's the if you know anything about concussions, it's not just trauma to the head. It's not just a blow to the head. It's the whiplash and what the brain does. That's the reason why the NFL has targeted defenseless receivers, guys who are blindsided, because of the whiplash to the brain. It's not just you got smacked in the head and that's a concussion. It's the neck. It's all those facets involved. So right, I encourage you to do your studying if you think that was a legit play. It wasn't. It was the definition of a defenseless hit. And the NFL, it would be a big surprise if Equinemius St. Brown did not get a fine this week from the NFL. That's just the reality.
Mm-hmm. Lots of people asking about Nick Perry as well, talking about his injury in the game. We don't know his status and what that is, but it was not good for him.
No, it wasn't. This team is banged up going to Seattle, and it's 4 days from now they're going to be playing a really big game. The Rams came away with a win over the Seahawks today. A game that came down to the 4th and 10 at the end. Look, this is the NFL did the Packers no favors here. We got our credentials today. I got my credential for the Seahawks game 12 minutes before kickoff. It's crazy. So just to give you an idea, this is a Wednesday on a 7-day schedule, and they just played a game, and in 2 days they're going to be flying 4 hours across country to Seattle, and then 2 days after that they're going to be playing a game that could have some serious NFC wildcard ramifications with the Seahawks being one of those teams. Several teams in the NFC are in the mix. The Seahawks are at 4-5. The Packers are at 4-4-1. I mean, it's a huge game, and it's on Thursday night, a short week. Now, if there's one bright side out of this, the Packers are not the only team that got screwed by the NFL. The Vikings had to go on a short week to Los Angeles for a Thursday night game. So they were kind of in the same boat. It would be a lot different, I think, than, if you would see Minnesota going to Green Bay on a short week and then Green Bay having to go cross country for their short week game. And both those teams were in the same boat. So, but yeah, it's really unfair to the players, and it's not a good look for the league.
Mm-hmm. And you and I spoke on Friday as well, and we were wondering whether or not Blake Martinez was going to play today.
I was a little surprised, yeah.
And yeah, I was going to ask you because we didn't get a chance to chat before the game. So you were surprised. We all saw his injury, of course, last week against the Patriots, his ankle injury. Certainly looked a little scary. I was surprised that his ankle or his foot is still attached to his ankle. But alas, he did play. I wonder how that's going to impact his availability come Thursday.
Yeah, well, I got to imagine that the Packers wouldn't have played him if he couldn't play for next week. If you saw the Blake Martinez ankle injury, you would have wondered if he might be coming back this season. I mean, it looked awful. And kind of similar to now Kentrell Bryce, looks like he's got a very significant, serious ankle injury. Couldn't put any weight under it while he left the field today. Got carted to the locker room and almost immediately downgraded to out. So that's one thing to watch. But with Blake Martinez, he was able to play. Really surprised. I mean, he did come back in New England, and the thought for me was that, okay, the adrenaline is still high. He hasn't gone cold yet, so when the ankle's not warm, the swelling goes up. So I thought it was almost less likely that he would play this week than returning to New England just once the swelling went up. But it's pretty amazing he was able to play, and certainly the Packers need him because he's by far the best off-ball linebacker.
Certainly. Hopefully we'll hear from him tomorrow and see how he's feeling. And like you said, Packers probably wouldn't have played him today if they weren't confident that he'd be healthy enough to play on Thursday. So we'll certainly see how that all pans out. I saw a lot of people earlier asking about Aaron Rodgers and wondering why, because there was a few flashes of not brilliance in this game today where he just was inaccurate on some of his throws.
And we've seen that. He's coming into today, he had a career low 60.5 completion percentage. So, yeah, I mean, that's, where would this offense be right now without basically Davante Adams and Aaron Jones, who kind of carried the day-to-day? At some point, I would expect, and you would expect, Aaron Rodgers to snap out of it. We didn't see that today. Maybe going to Seattle on a short week. One thing he was asked about is pain in the knee, and he said his pain level goes down each week, but that's not going to help having to play in the middle of this week against a Seahawks defense that is nothing like it was 4 or 5 years ago, but still has that style of play that likes to get after the quarterback and put plenty of hits on the quarterback.
Yeah, John says Mercedes Lewis is a beast. More fun passes to him.
Yeah, it's funny, John. Mike McCarthy was asked during the week if they need to at least like throw the football to Mercedes Lewis just so that everyone knows that basically he's not just a body out there, but he can actually make a play. Well, the Miami Dolphins forgot that he can actually make a play because they completely did not cover him. You've got to do that stuff just to make a defense stay honest. I mean, the Dolphins didn't stay honest. They basically, if you go to a basketball equivalent, it's basically like not guarding a guy from the three-point line and just falling off it and daring him to shoot. I mean, that's what they did with Mercedes Lewis, and he got a big play out of it.
And speaking of some unexpected success tonight, Raven Green also having a very big night. I mean, he hadn't had a single snap on defense all season leading up till tonight. He'd been playing special teams, and he had a big night, especially that fake punt was pretty sweet.
He's going to have to play more because Kentrell Bryce, I mean, he wasn't able to put weight on his left leg walking off the field. Kind of used the training staff as crutches. I mean, he's not going to be able to play next week, and who knows when he'll play again. So Raven Green's going to get some more snaps, and he did a lot with him tonight. I was surprised. I don't know about you. I was surprised that they showed that fake punt in this game. Like, it was a heck of a play. It obviously worked. But if you've got a really good play like that in your back pocket, I was really surprised they pulled it out in this situation.
Yeah, I don't think I was expecting it, but it was kind of cool to see the dueling fake punts. It was a nice little jab back, say, hey, look what we can break out here too. However, was it the right game for it? you know what? They weren't always in it this game, and it certainly didn't feel like that either. So I don't think they needed to take the foot off the gas pedal at any point.
That's a good point. This really was 2 games today. There was what happened up until about the early third quarter when the Dolphins pulled within 14-12, and make no mistake, that was a must-win game. The Packers lose that game, their season's over. They don't go to the playoffs. That was a must-win game. They had to win today. And it's 14-12 in the second half at home against Brock Osweiler. That's not good. But then it obviously ended 31-12 because from that moment, the Packers outscored Miami 17-0. They won going away. They did what they needed to do. They didn't even put Aaron Jones out with 3 minutes to go for the final possession because they had a decent lead. I mean, I think you'd rather have that going into a short week at Seattle than the inverse of that, where you get out to a really good start and then collapse and barely hold on. So, yeah, I mean, it was touch and go there for the first 2.5 quarters, and then they kind of woke up at 14-12, and they responded in a way. I have no idea if they're going to gain anything from that. That might just be a 1-week thing, but it can't hurt.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Saran wants to see Aaron Jones get the ball more, and I think people have been commenting that I'd say all season. But we already talked about that. If you're just joining us, do we think Aaron Jones is going to get more than 15 carries a game? Maybe.
Seattle? That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's a good question. Because this was obviously a season high. I would say that they have to go higher. I would say they have to get close to 20. And I think if not for that 67-yard run, if it was more of a methodical drive instead of a huge explosive play, it would have been higher. So I'll say it goes higher against Seattle. But that's all. It's a risky. It's going out on a limb because they just haven't gone there, and I think they need to if they're going to win these next 2 games against 2 really good teams on the road.
Right. I think they're going to have to figure out what his limit is, and we don't know if he's figured that out yet. We don't know. They might not know if he's hit his limit.
Yeah. There's probably some guesswork involved on their part too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another breakout star tonight. I guess maybe star loose term. Bashad Breeland had an interception.
First interception.
Yeah, after a not.
You talked to him on Friday, and he wasn't real pleased with how he played in New England.
Yeah, I think to be understood, I think his debut was not spectacular, and I think he was well aware of that, and he was putting some pressure on himself that he needed to step up. He said, "This is my second chance. I don't get a third chance." He knows that it's not a gift. He doesn't get owed anything by this team, and he still needs to prove himself to this team, and I think tonight he definitely made a push in the right direction.
Yeah, so Guy wants to know who'll be available to play in the secondary Thursday. All bodies healthy, basically. I mean, that's kind of what this morphed into tonight, where all healthy bodies, all available hands on deck were used, even Raven Green, as we said. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Josh Jones played a lot of that sub linebacker. He's going to get his snaps. Raven Green's going to get snaps. Tremont Williams already moved from corner to safety. So it's really all hands on deck.
Lots of people asking about Jair Alexander, speaking of our secondary. We don't know his exact status. We were aware that he was being tested for a concussion by the end of the game. So we don't have any updates, but of course, follow us on Twitter, PG Packers News. We will certainly have your updates, and hopefully we'll hear a little bit tomorrow at media availability in the morning what's going on with Jair.
So Andy said that he said he passed the test. Yeah, I didn't speak with Jair Alexander in the locker room. So, I appreciate that. Kyler Sackrell. 5 sacks. I see what you did there, Levi. Yeah, he's leading. Look, not only is he leading the Packers with Kenny Clark for sacks, not only does he have more than Clay Matthews and Nick Perry combined, but coming into the day, Khalil Mack, who's obviously missed some games with injury, he had 5 sacks coming into the game. Khalil Mack had 2 sacks today. He's not the same player, not in any way or any universe implying that. No. But 5 sacks is 5 sacks. That's not nothing. And who knew? I mean, I don't think anyone would have thought that 9 games into the season, Kyler Fackrell would be tied for the lead on this defense. He's getting a lot more snaps, and he's earned them.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was certainly impressive. And a lot of people asking about Clay Matthews and people saying some not so nice things about Clay Matthews and his contract, which, probably isn't going to be the last time we hear that this season. However, it looks like Kyler Fackrell certainly had quite the game tonight. Yeah. Yeah,
and Cody likes Kenny Clark. You're not the only one. He's having a Pro Bowl year. That doesn't mean that he'll get selected, of course. Usually, especially guys in the trenches, it seems like they always get selected to the Pro Bowl a year after they deserve. Mike Daniels, it was that way. But Kenny Clark is a Pro Bowl player right now. He's one of the best players on this team. And 5 sacks from basically a nose tackle position is awfully impressive.
Mike McCarthy question. Mark asks, think Mike McCarthy is gone at the end of the year?
Boy.
Still feel like it's too early right now.
They won today, by the way. They're 500. They won today. The 500 doesn't help them because they shouldn't be 500 with Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, it's way too early. These next 2 games, in a lot of ways, might tell us a little bit. If they can get a win in Seattle or Minnesota, it does wonders. If they can go 5-5-1 going into their last 5, which is where the cupcake portion of their schedule is, they're in good shape. If at that point they're 4-6-1, they're going to need, they were 4-6 in 2016. They ran the table. They're going to need that again. So, no, it's way too premature to know about Mike McCarthy. But I think it is clear that they need to win for his sake as well.
What did you think of his play calling today? I thought it was interesting that he went for it on 4th down early in the first half and ended up turning the ball over and giving Osweiler a real chance, giving him good field position when he could have started back much further.
Yeah, to me, I think Mike McCarthy wanted to put this game away early, knowing what's coming up in 4 days. It's hard to blame him there. But they did give Miami a field goal with that decision, and if you kick it deep there, you get the ball back on a short field because you hold Brock Osweiler to a first down maybe. You still get the chance to double dip before at the end of the first half and before the second. So yeah, that was questionable. And like I already said, I was stunned. Like, I don't know if you were really excited when Raven Green he went around the end, the corner and picked up a first down on the fake punt. I was stunned. I was like, why are they? This is a game they don't need to pull up from their bag of tricks to win. Save that for when it matters.
Yeah, no, it was interesting. It was interesting. And exciting for him for sure. How did you feel about special teams? I know that this has been a big theme of the season, is special teams flubbing when they really shouldn't be. And who's to say they should never be not flubbing? But today especially had a couple little blips.
It's the worst special teams I can remember since 2014 when they missed their Super Bowl ticket because of special teams in 2014. Just because they're going back to Seattle for the first time since the NFC Championship game, I'll bring that up. Brandon Bostic, the botched onside kick, the fake field goal touchdown that Seattle had in that game. That was a symptom of the overall issue, which was bad special teams throughout. I mean, they had like 6 block kicks in 2014. You're seeing that again this season, week in, week out. The special teams is making costly plays that are not, if they don't lose games like they did today, they keep things a lot closer. Look, the Tramon Williams fumble, and he said that he thought it was because of the sleeves. It's a return to midfield. They have a pretty big lead already. I think 14-3. If they score a touchdown there with the short field, they win this going away. That kept them in the game. The block punt gave Miami a field goal. So they're making really costly special teams plays. They've got to clean that up. Those are going to cost games against the better teams.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Run the table. Troy, looking down the road, the Packers going to have a run the table season. Now, Pete wrote about this a bit in his column. I'd like to ask you, too. Do you think they can have a similar type of season that they had when it was the run the table season?
Yeah, they can. I don't know that they will. They can, because the last 5 games are really not that daunting. Certainly not more than this 5-game stretch they're currently in the midst of. The hardest part of their schedule ends not this next week, but the week after when they go to Minnesota. After that, they do have a road game against Chicago, and Chicago looked awfully good today, kicking the snot out of the Lions. But the last 5 games are games that the Packers absolutely can win. They're going to need their quarterback to play better, though. Aaron Rodgers, the reason they ran the table in 2016 was that Aaron Rodgers played out of his mind. He almost single-handedly lifted them out of that hole, and the way he's playing right now is not. It's not a one-man. It's not good enough to single-handedly save a season, and they're going to need him to play better.
Mm-hmm. We're going to take a couple more questions for you guys. I saw Jason ask if it's time to part ways with Randall Cobb. Is it? Is he getting to that point in his career where maybe the Packers have enough talent in their arsenal that they don't need him anymore?
It depends on the price, like it always does. If they like Randall Cobb, so if they get a good deal on him this spring, I wouldn't rule him coming back. I wouldn't rule him out from coming back, but they're equipped in their receiving core to move on if they make that decision. If another team offers more, that can always happen. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of great urgency there to go above their means to retain him.
All right, last thought. Ray says that Jones should touch the ball 25 times a game. There you have it, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll
see if he gets hurt in 3 weeks, but, I mean, at this point, every time he gets the ball, he gets 10 yards. You probably ought to keep giving it to him.
Hey, if he can stay on his feet and he can stay healthy and sustain that high count of touches, who knows? Maybe we'll see. Who knows? Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. We will, of course, be at practice tomorrow, and then there's media availability on Tuesday as well, and then they're traveling. So it's kind of a
same
weird
day,
week.
Yeah. It's a very weird week.
Yeah.
This is very bizarre, but hey, that's the NFL these days with these midweek games.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for being on this journey with us. We appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good night.